Hey folks, it's Dave back in Studio C playing some ultra quick wrestling again, and I decided to tackle the advanced mode of this game. And when I originally read the advanced mode and chart, my head was spinning. I was like, oh boy, I better just stick with basic. But I decided to give advanced mode a go, and I'm really enjoying it. And I want to explain some of the differences between basic and advanced, and maybe some of the ways that I'm mixing and matching the different modes. So first off, to play ultra quick wrestling, you got your card here. Okay, there's your mankind card, and down on the bottom you have your overall score. Everybody has an overall score. So you decide who's wrestling. So you take your two wrestlers, and this is basic mode, and you look at the match modifier. You roll the dice, and you might look at strength or savvy or technical or nothing, okay? So when you determine what the modifier is going to be, you look at the player card, and if it's strength, we add 25. If it's savvy, we don't add anything. Sometimes you would subtract as well. So you would roll your match modifier, add or subtract that to your overall score. Then you'd go to the pre-match roll, and that would determine if you're going to read off the heel or the face pre-match event chart. That's this right here. So if it was the heel and you would roll, sometimes it's a normal match, sometimes it's something that happens. So you would read off of here to get more adjustments for the match. So once you have your match modifier and your pre-match numbers, you get your final overall score. So you get your overall score plus or minus this, plus or minus that, you get your overall score. It's quite possible that reading off of this chart the match is already over, but if it's not, now you roll to see who wins. So you get your overall score. Let's just say Mankind is 300 points higher than his opponent. So you look at the chart and say, okay, 151 to 450 difference, which 300 falls in between. 1 to 59, so we're rolling 1 to 100. 1 to 59, Mankind would win. So you'd roll the dice to see who wins, and you see if it's the face that wins or the heel that wins, okay? And then you also need to know what you're playing. Is it a TV taping? Is it a pay-per-view? Is it a no DQ, a cage match, or any other kind of match? They're all here. There's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 different outcomes here, 5 different matches. So you would read to see what happened. Is it a clean pin? Was it a DQ? Do we have to go to the unusual results chart? So that's how you would find out. After you determine who win, you figure out how they won and if they won, depending on what happens on the unusual chart. So that's basic mode. Overall, plus or minus this, plus or minus that, roll for a winner, and then see how they won. So that's your basic mode. In advanced, they when you do, instead of the match modifier chart, you come out to this modifier chart. And what they set up here is that when you look at your overall number, you figure out the highest one. So let's say Mankind was the face, the good guy, and he had the higher overall number. You would go to this chart and roll under face. And that still would determine if it's going to be speed, size, or cheating, or whatever, or nothing. But you would roll off the face here. If it was even, there's an even chart, and if it's the heel, it goes to the heel chart. So it's just a little bit more expanded from this. Instead of just rolling once, you roll to see, off the face or heel or even. So you would get your basically your match modifier out of the way, like you do in basic. What they've added in advanced, and it's really fun when you're doing a federation, is the heat levels. And what you need to do is when you're setting up your federation is you have heat levels starting at 10 going down to 1, 10 being the highest, 10 being the best. So when two wrestlers meet, let's just say Mankind was a 5 and he was playing wrestling the Undertaker, and the Undertaker was a 10, that gives me a 15 heat level for this particular match, 5 and 10, okay? You go to the chart here, and 15 through 20 is a high heat match. So we have a high heat match going on, okay? You have high, medium, and low for heat. So if you had two of the scrubs going at it and you only had a 2 or 3 a heat, 2 or 3 a heat would only be a low heat match, okay? So you determine what the heat level is for the match. And the heat levels are kind of fun because your guys can go up or down when they wrestle. I had Triple H, and he went up. I think he went up 4 slots in one match. He went up 2 for one thing and 2 for another. So he's shooting up to the top of my heel list in my federation. So it's been kind of fun. So determine your heat level of the match. Now, instead of going to your pre-match here, you go to your pre-match possibility chart. So that's when you would roll to see if something was going to happen before the match. And again, you got your high, medium, and your low level of heat for the match. So you'd roll on that particular chart. Then, and I'll explain that one second. So then you would get on to your in-match event chart. Same thing, high, medium, low. So You roll pre, you roll during, and then when it's all said and done, you have your post-match, and something could happen there too. So with advanced, instead of 1 or 2, you get 3 different things here to work off of, and the heat level to include. So it's just reading off a chart. It's really not that difficult. So, and then on the outcome of the match, which is a little different, is that after you determine a winner, whether it's off a chart or whether it's off the results chart, again, it goes back, even in advance, it's the same overall plus any modifications, and you go to the result chart if things haven't been determined elsewhere already. Instead of this, when you're going over here to see, hey, what happened? Was it a clean pin or submission? You roll the dice, see who wins, and you take the last number. So let's just say you rolled 75. Look at the number 5. So you go over here. If it was a TV match and it was a 5, okay, its opponent submits. If it was a pay-per-view and a 5, then it's a stunning comeback from the brink of defeat for the win. So it just gives you a little bit more details on the win than the basic column here. I find myself combining the two. So I'll roll, get the winner, and I'll go here to see what this said, and then I'll go here to see what this said. I find the best one for me for the best story. Okay, again, I don't care who wins, but for me it's all about story. So I find that sometimes the basic chart gives me more of what I want out of the end of the match rather than the advanced chart, and I've heard some people that mix and match too. But again, there is an advanced finish chart that gives a little bit more detail. Sometimes though, I look at the two and I figure out, you have a big match and it's like, oh, it's a blowout win. No, it wasn't. It was I'm going to go back to this chart for the win. It doesn't change the winner. It just changes how he won for the story. So again, this is all about story. So that's how we'll do that. So let me get into a little bit more detail of the charts here. So again, we're going to play an advanced match. Okay, so Mankind has the overall, he's higher than his opponent, let's say, whoever it was. So we roll the dice, we look on the face, and we rolled a 36, so we're going to go to size. So we add size. So Mankind would add 25 to his overall 2100. He has 2125. We'd go to the pre-match possibility chart. Again, if this is a high heat match, we roll 1 to 100. 1 to 90, something's going to happen. So there's a good chance in a high heat match something's going to happen. Low, it's only 1 to 70. Something would happen. So it gets a little bit lower the lower the heat is in the match. So what would happen next is we would roll. After we determine something happened, we roll, and there's 3 things that can happen on the pre-match event chart. Something during the pre-match interview, during the entrance, or if they're in the ring before the bell sounds. And this is where you go to these charts, and you have all 3 of those charts right here. 1, 2, 3. So the pre-match shot, if something happens, you roll again. 1 of 3 things happen, and you go to whichever chart you need. Same thing on the in-match event. You roll the dice. Did something happen? Again, you look, if you're in high heat, medium heat, or low heat, you roll to see if something happened. Or if it's no event. If no event, you just move on. If something happens, you roll the dice. Again, 3 possibilities. Interruption, some kind of a brawl, or an unusual occurrence. So you take your in-match event charts. And here's your 3 different charts for that. And then finally, after the match is over, you get your post-event chart. You roll to see what happens. Again, looking at high, medium, and low heat. You see what happens. You roll the dice. If something happens, it could be a match celebration. Something happens during a celebration. Intervention by the commissioner. Or some kind of unfinished business might be happening. And again, you just go to that chart and you roll the dice on one of these 3 charts. And you see what happens. And then finally, hopefully, you have the conclusion to your match. So, so in a nutshell, again, just basic, let me just recap basic. It's match modifier plus your pre-match, gets you your final score, you roll to determine what happened, and then you can check your outcomes here. In advanced, you got your match modifier chart, you check your heat level, and then you see you got your pre-match roll. If something happens, you go to 1 of 3 things. Then you check your in-match. If something happens, you have 1 of 3 things happening. Go to the appropriate chart. Figure out who wins. If no winner, go to your results chart, again, with the overall score, plus any modifications. See who wins. Then you go to your post-match chart after you determine what happened with the win, and see if anything happened after the match. So, advanced, it's really, it's not as difficult as I'm making it sound. It's just figuring out high, medium, or low heat, does something happen or not? If something happened, which chart do I read from? And then you read from the chart and follow from there. And the best thing about this game is you can make it up as you go. And I've made it up as I go so many different times. There's something that would happen, and even in the rules, it says if you read something and you don't like it, roll again. Because I read something and it's like the guy got hit coming out of the locker room and he never made the match and it's disqualified. I didn't like that. I thought, no, my fans are going to see the match. He's not going to trip coming out of the locker room and not fight. He's gonna wrestle. So I rolled again and I got something better and it came out pretty good. And a lot of times, you come up with your own endings. It'll just say submission or DQ or dirty tactic. So, for me, in my recap, I think I put, the guy used the ropes for leverage, which you're not supposed to do, and that's how he won the match. Another match, Val Venus was wrestling Roddy Piper, and it said Roddy Piper got disqualified. So, how would I write that up? Well, I said, okay, one of the girls in the stand was winking and waving at Val Venus because Val Venus was an Adonis, and Roddy didn't like that, and even though he slapped her. And he got disqualified for that. And obviously the girl was in on the gag. She was part of Val Venus's crew, obviously, and she suckered into it. But again, that's just how I wrote it up, And there's been a couple times that, that things happen and they leave it wide open. They leave it for you to write the ending of the story. And that's what's really fun about this. And it's really fun coming out with what happened in your own mind. You just picture it while you're playing the game. So anyway, I'm Dave. Hopefully that explained a little bit about some basic mode for Ultra Quick Wrestling and Advanced Mode, and I'm using a combination of the two. And I'm just finding out, when I roll the dice, when something happens, I look to see what the better result is for me, because it's my game, I'm playing it my way, and I'm enjoying the heck out of this. And anyways, it's wrestling. So anyway, I'm Dave from Studio C. Talk to everybody later. Bye-bye.